You are in for a treat. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're at the California Democratic Party Convention in San Jose. And guess who's here? Duf Sundheim. He was the chair of the California Republican Party in
2003 to 2007.
He is a candidate for the United States Senate. Mr. Sundheim, what are you doing here?
Well, look, these people are very strong patriots. They believe in this country. I'm here to listen to what they care about, learn from it, because when I'm in the United States Senate, all people of California are going to be important to me. And this is 50% of the people of this country, of this state.
And I have to think, you must have friends here. I mean,
you've
been around.
I've already got 2 events set up, one with the UCLA College Democrats.
So honestly, though, let's dig deeper.
Yeah.
Why did you come here? I mean, I know what you're saying. Sure, you're in the Senate, but come on, dig deep.
We need to develop a new coalition. You know, we have gridlock in Washington. And as long as we're electing people that come from a partisan position, they're just going to be pouring cement on that gridlock. I want to get things done. And to get things done, people on the other side can't be afraid of you. They have to understand that you may disagree with them, but they know that you'll listen. And I want to make sure that the people in this hall know that when I'm in the United States Senate, I will listen to what they have to say. I'm just not going to listen to the people that voted for me or the people that gave me money. I'm really going to try to craft positions that are in the best interest of the people of this state.
So let's have some fun.
I'm having fun already.
I have gone to Democratic conventions. I have gone to Republican conventions. There is a certain flavor at a Democratic convention that's different than a Republican convention. Parse that out for me.
Well, I think that the people at the Republican conventions, their ideology and their love of America is front and center.
Right.
I think the Democrats have a little bit more fun. And
one could argue. Could argue.
I think that they're both strong Americans, but it really is a difference in how they see what the best interest of America is. These people think that government is the answer. They feel that Republicans don't care about what's in the best interest of the country. Republicans and myself feel that the answers don't lie in some bureaucrat's office 3,000 miles away. It lies in the hearts and the imagination of the American people. But how do we meld that together so we stop this clashing and start thinking about how we move things forward?
It's interesting you call the people here patriots. And the reason I say that is, you know, there are Republican candidates who will routinely call into question the patriotism of their Democratic opponents. And I tend not to hear that from Democrats calling patriotism of their Republican opponents. I'm not a partisan, but talk me through this.
Well, from my position, the enemy isn't Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, Jerry Brown, whoever the Democrats are. The enemy is ignorance, illiteracy, hunger. So that's what I want to focus on, is the real enemy isn't people from the other party, it's the issues that we face. So once we focus on that, then we can start moving forward. And you're right, I find it frankly on both sides. I mean, I went to an event where I got physically removed from a Democratic event.
That's silly.
So that has happened on both sides. And what I am trying to say is we need to stop that. We're in a very serious situation. So while we're engaged in this fight, we have 8.9 million Californians living in poverty. We have people whose quality of water is such that it is much worse than the people in Flint, Michigan are facing. We need to start addressing those issues rather than to find tactical advantage from a political perspective.
But let me tell you a story. I don't know if I've told you this before. So I'm in Sacramento often for work.
Everywhere.
And I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. And Democrats and Republicans will come in after each other in terms of interviews. And they're palling around, they're talking, they're at each other's fundraisers. Very collegial. In D.C., when they're passing each other, they're not looking at each other. And I mean, there are 2 members, one from our state, one from another state, Democrat, Republican. They're known as being gentlemen and gentle ladies, and yet they wouldn't look at each other. What's going on?
That is where it's at, and I've seen it. I've seen people do exactly what you said in the hallway. So why, I've never been introduced to that leader. And you go, oh my God, well, why didn't you introduce yourself right there? And look, again, it's a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of strength to be doing that, right? If you feel comfortable and confident in your positions, you can treat people with respect and dignity.
When can
if you look at what Reagan did. You know, I worked very closely with George Shultz,
who was the Secretary of State.
Secretary of State for Reagan. The reason they had success is that they treated Gorbachev as if he was a human being.
Well, they treated Tip O'Neill as if he was a human being.
Absolutely.
They treated, who is the majority leader in the Senate back then? Robert Byrd, maybe?
Yes.
Robert Byrd?
Remember
yeah, I know. But whatever
exactly.
it is, the Democrats and the Republicans treated each other well, and I just, and again, I'm not pointing fingers. There's blame to go on both sides. But I think about, for example, this fight over the Supreme Court nomination after the tragic death of Antonin Scalia. I don't care what one thinks about Antonin Scalia politically or in terms of his jurisprudence. We lost a Supreme Court justice. And I just found it so unfortunate that his death got politicized.
Well, I've come out and said, look, the president should nominate. The Senate should consider.
But you know who else said that? Two people, Duf Sundheim and Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
And Jeb Bush got chased out of town.
Yeah.
You know,
but you gotta be true to who you are. And again, my view is if you really are strong in what you believe, because people like to say, oh, he's a moderate or whatever because he's talking with other people.
Right.
No. I have very strong ideas. I have confidence in those ideas. I have confidence that those ideas are in the best interest of the public. And it's only if you have confidence that I think you can say things like, look, the Senate should do its job under the Constitution.
So let's say you're victorious in November. You go to the United States Senate. Let's presume the Republicans maintain control.
Right.
You want to take a position that's opposite to leadership.
Sure.
How do you do that? I mean, they punish you.
Well, right.
On both sides.
Sure. But, you know, I'm not there to play the internal game. I'm not going there to answer to Mitch McConnell or whoever the leader is. I'm going there to answer to the people of California. And so I have identified people on the Republican side and people on the Democratic side, such as Dianne Feinstein, Joe Manchin, and others, Cory Booker on some issues, especially
These are Democratic members of the U.S. Senate.
Right. That I would love to engage in a dialogue with. Because just as Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court was kind of the swing vote, I think if we can find 5 to 7 senators of both parties that are willing to say, you know what, we need to address the problems that people face, maybe we could be the swing vote.
I'm going to presume that in the fall, Hillary Clinton is the nominee for the Democrats.
It looks that way.
And Mr. Trump is the nominee for the Republicans.
Looks that way as well.
One could argue that could present challenges for you if Mr. Trump is the nominee in California.
Right.
How do you navigate that?
Well, we'll see how it plays out. Because, again, you know, as a mediator,
yes,
usually by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, both sides are mad at you, right? I mean, even though they've been arguing over this issue for 4 years, all of a sudden within 5 hours, you're the enemy. So I think that I need to listen and understand what her agenda is, if it's Hillary, or what Donald's agenda is if he's president.
What do you make of the Trump candidacy? You, especially chair of the California Republican Party, who would have thunk?
Well, it's why I ran, frankly. It's because of Trump on the right and Sanders on the left. It's emotion. And you have...
But Trump on the right's almost an exaggeration. Is he even on the right?
Well, he's running for the Republican nomination. You're right. I mean, you look at Planned Parenthood, you look at, there's a lot of, but that even makes my point even more firm. It's not about ideology, it's about emotion. And every time you go through stress, it's emotion that rules the day. You will have leaders that take advantage of that emotion for their political gain. True leaders identify that emotion and then move on. So that great example would be Franklin Roosevelt in the Depression. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. And then he had the leadership to deal with the policy issues to change it, but along the way he never lost sight of that emotional component and had his fireside chats. And that's what true leaders do. They understand both the emotion and the policy.
Guess who came to the California Democratic Convention? Duf Sundheim. He's a Republican running for the United States Senate. That election will be held in June 2016. Duf, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Jose Charter Local Edition. I think it's great you're here.
Thanks.